Hi, looking here at this album, Fly or Die, by the band NERD. No One Ever Really Dies, apparently is what it stands for. Sometimes people would just call it NERD, 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 no one ever really dies. So this came out in 2004, and you can see there on the front cover, or you may be able to see, those are the members of NERD. And if we take away that guy, I'm going to talk about him. I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. Uh, those two guys there are the Neptunes, as it says on the sticker here. Pharrell Williams, that guy there in the middle, and Chad Hugo, the guy on the left with the white t-shirt. And then for NERD, they have their apparently high school friend, Shay Haley. Now, I looked up some information about Shay Haley, and there's not a lot out there. I don't know if he's done much else other than this. Anyway, these guys, I guess there's a lot surrounding. Like obviously, Pharrell Williams is kind of a personality and entity within himself, and then the Neptunes are an entity within themselves, and then NERD is a third entity, and so it's kind of hard to pass those apart from each other because they're all kind of interconnected. So the Neptunes are Chad Hugo and Pharrell Williams are a production team that came to be in the early, sorry, not the early, the late 90s through the 2000s, and I think they're still working nowadays. They worked a lot with Justin Timberlake on one of his, I think his first solo album, Justified, and Snoop Dogg, and a lot of other artists, Jay-Z, Ludacris, Foxy Brown, Britney Spears. Okay, I'm a Slave for You. They produced that. Callus, Jadakiss. So some of the Usher, the big names of 2000s hip hop and R&B. NSYNC, Lil Bow Wow, Beyonce. Um, and they're still, I'm just see going through to more modern times. Yeah, they don't really seem to be doing as much production work in the last 10 years, but they've done stuff with, again, Justin Timberlake and Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, T.I., Nelly Furtado, Shakira. So, Madonna. They've worked with some of the best, or some of the biggest. I shouldn't say best because a lot of those artists are shit, but certainly some of the biggest. And they were, I think that there was a period there where production, the producers of albums and production teams were almost given equal billing as the artist. Well, maybe not equal billing, that might be over. So, but it was these guys and Timberland and now I can't think of any other ones, but there were some other ones. So what the other producers used to hear a lot about. I don't know. I can't think at the moment. My excuse is I'm a little bit sick today. But anyway, so they built a name for themselves through that, through their production work, and then they had their own band. So these guys were all high school friends. They met each other when they were kids, and they formed a band together as well. Once they had the fame of their production work, they parlayed that into, I guess, getting a record deal with who put this out, Virgin, and kind of having their own band as well. So I got this secondhand, and it would have been 50 cents. You do see this around from time to time. I also have their, actually, I'm not going to get that. Hang on one second. Boom. I have their debut as well, In Search Of, which I think came out about 2001, 2002. This one I'm not as familiar with. I haven't listened to this as much. I have listened to it, and it's not a bad album, but this one I listened to a lot more, and I actually own this new back at the time it was released in the mid 2000s. This was $1 as well. You can see that when this was bought new, $35, $34.95 in 2002. With inflation, I think I've done this before. That's like $60 or $70 in today's money. So fucked up how expensive music is, or was, still is. They what would you call that? Sorry, I'm a bit all over the place today. Their music, I'd say, is rooted in rock. They see themselves as a rock band, but there's definitely hip hop elements, R&B elements in it, underpinning it, and quite a lot of funk as well. I'd almost say funk rock. They say on one of the things I was reading before, they described it as alternative rock and rap rock, which no, I don't agree with that. So this is what they say on another page: alternative hip hop, funk rock, alternative rock, rap rock, avant funk, and progressive rap. Yeah, I guess kind of those together. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna focus on this album because, like I said, the one song I do know, and well, not do know. I know all the songs, but the one that I know in particular, and I've known for 20 years, is their song "Provider," which was one of the singles, and it's quite a good song. I don't know how you really describe that song. It's kind of like a hip hop with a little bit of rock in it, but not really rock. It's more hip hop. But he sings as well. You know, Pharrell Williams has got quite a good singing voice, quite a soulful voice. Anyway, you know, last night I worked and it was a shit night at work, and I was feeling a little bit. I was kind of felt myself starting. You know that feeling you get when you feel like I'm going to get sick. I can feel it in the back of my throat. It's like tomorrow I'm going to wake up and yeah. Last night I didn't sleep well, and then I woke up this morning. I was like, I'm basically sick. I have the early stages of a cold. You can probably hear it in my voice a little bit. And when you have a cold, or when I have a cold, you also have a lot of kind of, I guess what they call nowadays brain fog, where it's kind of hard to kind of focus on things and get your thoughts together. At the best of times, I struggle with that, and so when I have a cold, it's even worse. And I feel since COVID, I had COVID last year. Since then, I've had like residual brain fog, if you know what I mean. And then when I get sick, it's like it's turned way up. It's like, because I've had colds all my life, as everyone else has, and a cold is a cold. You have a bit of a sore throat and a blocked nose for a few days, but it doesn't really affect you that much unless it's a particularly bad cold. Or the flu, which is obviously something completely different. But yeah, since I've had COVID, I feel the colds have kind of affected me in a slightly different way. I would guess that's because my immune system has been affected in some ways. I'm not sure exactly, but it's not a major thing, but it's just definitely like kind of something I've sensed, and it's hard for me to kind of think clearly and focus properly when I am sick nowadays. Anyway, enough of that. This is a pretty good album, I think. It's different. You know, it didn't really sound a lot like much else that was out at the time. And they kind of have their own sound. You can hear their songwriting style come through a lot. So they seem to be influenced by a whole range of artists. Like to me, it sounds like I don't know much about Chad Hugo at all. Like he seems like a pretty quiet guy. He doesn't do a lot of interviews and things. But Pharrell Williams obviously is a much bigger media entity, and I've seen interviews with him over the years, and it's always surprised me the stuff he talks about. He seems comfortable talking about a range of music. I saw an interview. He was talking about Black Flag, you know, the punk band from the early 80s, Greg Ginn, Henry Rollins and all that. And he wasn't just like referencing them. He was like talking about the albums in depth. like deep cuts and kind of talking about how he felt about each one and why he did and didn't like different things in the different eras of the band. And then I saw another thing he was talking about. I can't remember, like prog rock or something, like 70s prog rock. So it always surprised me. He seems to be like a true, student of music, the history of music, and he knows a lot about different kinds of music, and you can hear that come through in some of his songwriting. And like again, I don't know how much Chad Hugo's input into it is. He may be just as important, but if you listen to the song "Body Rock," is it right? No, "Rock Your Body"? Yeah, by Justin Timberlake, which is one of the big singles off Justified. That was written by the Neptunes and produced by them. And you hear that song, especially, this is something that they do, and they do very well, is a bridge section, a middle eight section. If you listen to that song, you'll know what I'm talking about, the bridge of that song. So it goes through, the verses. I'm trying to think of what the chorus is. It doesn't really have a chorus, is it? Oh, yes, it does. It does have a chorus. It starts with the chorus and the verses, and then chorus again. And then when it goes into the bridge, it sounds like it is directly taken from a Michael Jackson song from Off the Wall or Thriller. And I thought that the very first time I heard it, I remember commenting to my friend, I was like, well, that sounds like a really influenced by Michael Jackson's earlier solo work. And then I came to find out that they actually had written that song, and I think a few of the other songs they had done for Justin Timberlake, for Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, this would have been, when, I don't know when that album came out, 2004, 2005, I think. Michael Jackson's fortunes had obviously turned a lot in that period. So what? He had, was it Dangerous, was 1990 or 91, and that was really his last big album. Because after that, he had like History, which was that greatest hits, and he did world tour for that. And then he did other bits and pieces through the 90s, which were, whatever Michael Jackson does is always going to be huge, but it would never capture the same kind of central position in the cultural zeitgeist that it had been through the 80s and early 90s. And then with the whole scandal of what, he was accused of doing multiple times, and his music wasn't as good, especially going to the 2000s. I'm actually not even really familiar with a lot of the music, but the stuff that I did hear, I wasn't really impressed with. And so I think that the Neptunes were kind of had the idea of having this project of reviving Michael Jackson's career. Similar way maybe that kind of Rick Rubin did with Johnny Cash and some of those other older artists that he worked with. Taking these obviously legendary artists and then writing music that's maybe more akin to what made them famous in the first place. Their golden period, golden era sound. But anyway, for whatever reason, Michael Jackson didn't work with them and rejected the songs, and so they used them with Justin Timberlake. I'm talking about a whole bunch of shit here, but not the album. I know that. My point in saying is that they have kind of a sound, and you can recognize that, and you recognize that in a few of their songs here. Some of the songs are very catchy and also quite cheesy. I think they got quite a cheese factor to them, and to be honest, I don't mind cheese. Walking the cheese tightrope can be hard because it can be a half a step between cringiness and brilliance. And I guess being a great artist is knowing which way to step and not going too far onto the cringiness side and staying within the brilliant side, or just being pure cheese down the middle. They had a few guest spots. You can see there, track 3, Jump, they did with the Madden brothers, Joel and Benji Madden from Good Charlotte, that pop punk band. Quite a catchy song. Quite the lyrics are kind of cheesy. Well, actually, not kind of. They are cheesy. They sound like they're written by like a 13-year-old complaining about their mum and dad and stuff. She Wants to Move was, I think, the main single of this. Starts off with a kind of a prominent drum beat. Dum, 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 dum. What I like about this song, like it's got a guitar, kind of a acoustic guitar riff in it as well, that kind of syncopates with the drum. But this is this is what they do really well. The little pieces that they write to join parts of the music together. So you have the verse, which is just the drum beat and the guitar. And then when it goes, I guess the pre-chorus, before the chorus, it has this piano, whatever you want to call it. Din, 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 din. If you listen to it, I'm not really doing it properly. It's almost half dissonant. It's not dissonant, but it's hard. It's like kind of like it doesn't go exactly where you expect it to. It doesn't just descend. It goes din 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 din. And that bit there, there's something about it that's kind of I don't know, really unique and different. And like I said, that's what they do best. And I can see why they are producers, because I think they would have the ability to offer good advice and add in bits into songs that are already formed. Sometimes their own songs, like some of the songs on here, can be a bit, I don't know, not as good. I'd feel, they probably work better together with others. But what else we got here? Drill Sergeant. It's a nice bouncy song. Backseat Love. It's got a good guitar in it. Maybe, which is track 10. That's the other single off this, and I think Lenny Kravitz plays guitar in it, and Questlove plays the drums. And it's quite a good song. Very influenced by the Beatles, obviously. It's like a mixture of like Hey Jude and Let It Be and a few other bits and pieces together, with a Lenny Kravitz guitar lead kind of winding its way through it. But again, that song's got an interesting bridge section as well, or kind of breakdown, where it's hard. I can't really describe where it is in the song. You have to kind of listen to the song yourself, and it's the part where it's like the drums are going dit. Great description, I know. But yeah, it's just, it's different. That's all I can really say about it, is that when you listen to it, it's something a bit different. It's not exactly in one particular genre or another particular genre. It kind of goes throughout and takes pieces from other bits and other genres and puts them together into their own sound. And you hear these flashes of brilliance. Not necessarily brilliant songs, though. And that's why I said I think they would work better as collaborators. There's not really much else I can say about that. NERD, Fly or Die, from, what did I say, 2004? Yes, 2004. Thanks for watching.